wait a minute. Oh, there you go. Perfect. I'm going to wait a second before we get going here. Carlos is on vacation and Kitty's not going to be here either today. So it's feeling like a short meeting.
Well,
what about Jim?
I see now why I looked up and it said that we don't do it on the 1st because it was considered possibly by Christians an All Saints Day.
Ah.
So I've never heard of All Saints Day, which shows how far I'm out of the fold. But it's valuable to somebody.
There you go.
And obviously you didn't know either, so.
No. But like I like to sell our meetings is come to the pros meetings. You'll learn all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. I see Miss Amada is now with us. I see we have some attendees, just so the attendees know who's here. Dick Clark, Jim Beringer. Looks like Jim's being brought into the fold, but Mr. Clark and Mr. Calderwood are here in the attendees, or in the audience, shall we say. And now it looks like we've got everybody here, so let's get going. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. I do not have a chair report, and so that takes us into committee member communications. Does anybody have any communications? I see Kermit, go right ahead.
Just a question of if we're looking at that, when we look at this, things like the Fiscalini Ranch, and I think of things like the trails and so forth that we'd like to sort of propose, is how isolated the pros commission is. And we're a ward of the county, but we don't have the county a member representing here. We have other open space things like the green space, the land trust, and other entities that own and manage land. Now the Historical Society is going to be one of those that has, a certain mass of stuff that they own and operate, but we're not coordinated and as land managers. Basically, the Fiscalini Ranch is a large piece of things, but we essentially operate only on their land base. And I would suggest that we look at in reorganizing the pros commission to include the larger property owners and as part of the decision making, and definitely the county staff member on our board as well, just like the North Coast Alliance advisory committee. So that's just a thought in my head that we pass, and because I would like to read this dog ordinance that we're dealing with all the land. We should be dealing with all the land. Where do dogs go? Are they all going to be under the same land base? And that's confusing to everybody. So that's a passing thought, but I thought I'd bring that up.
Thank you, Kermit. Anybody else? It's your opportunity. All right. Seeing none, we're going to move on. I forgot where we're at here to ex officio reports. Friends of the Fiscalini Ranch. Kitty is at an Oak Symposium and Carlos is on vacation. So I'm gonna assume we're not gonna get a report on that, and I'm gonna go right to Skate Cambria and Julie. Welcome.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. And first, I'd like to say blessings for the fall season. It's my favorite time of year. And those who know me well know I'm kind of a pumpkin freak. So if you're anywhere near the lower end of Ardith and you see a lot of pumpkins, that is my contribution to the fall. But please know, as the holidays are approaching, I'm sending you and your families blessings on those holidays. Thanksgiving is a very special time. Good news in regards to the skate park and where we are today. Want to first say thank you to the Scarecrow Festival. We, of course, participated, and our Scarecrow was out in front. He's still there. We'll be getting him down shortly. But Duncan rode through the entire wave of the Scarecrow Festival. So we are happy to participate and be part of that wonderful event. Second coming up is our next event for fundraising effort, and it is set for November 15th. We are very excited about this event. Is a partnership with San Luis Obispo Slow Brew Live. And Slow Brew Live has a entertainment venue out in San Luis Obispo. Tommy Moreno is a skater. He also has a band and a lot of Cal Poly students. And I don't know if you guys have been out to Slow Brew Live, but if you haven't, they always have great entertainment lineups. They have partnered with us to let Tony Moreno, basically, he is the opening act. We will be out there. They've been extremely generous in this partnership. We're not too sure what we'll be able to garnish in donation, but we are looking forward to working with not only Slow Brew Live, but Vert Jungle, which is the skate park out in Arroyo Grande, as well as Skate Warehouse, which is a wonderful connection for Skate Cambria and our park to have. So thank you to all of those out at Slow Brew Live for taking on the sponsorship and the event. Again, set for Tuesday, November 15th, 7 p.m. And it is all ages. So it's also not,
Julie,
go ahead.
could you please send me that information via email?
Yes, absolutely. I'll send you a flyer on it. And it'll
Okay, great, thanks.
like that, Joyce. Perfect. In addition, we have what we call our Q4 fundraiser. We're, of course, in the fourth quarter of this year, and we want to take advantage of any tax deductible donations. If people have money sitting around they don't know what to do with, we certainly would love to take it from them. So the Q4 launch will start next week. You'll start seeing some of those flyers around town. And it's just, of course, to gain more awareness to the project and take on as much as we can in donations. Exciting donation, headline alert, Pacifica Hotels on Moonstone, which of course have multiple properties, and Cambria Tourism Bureau, if you're listening, Pacifica Hotels has donated $5,000 to pick up the last Ollie placement sponsorship in the park. And of course, we know that the end of this month, November 17th, from what I know, nothing has changed that I'm aware of. We are set on agenda with CCSD. We're very excited to hear from Ray and all that's coming back from the county. We should have a better understanding of reports, any that are left, and of course exemptions. And it starts getting really real, hopefully, after November 17th in regards to moving things forward with CCSD. Happy to answer any questions, but there's an update on all that we've got going on with Skate Cambria and the park.
Hey, Julie, I'd like to ask you, you were mentioning about Pacifica hotels or motels and donating $5,000 to pick up the last something at the park. So what was that again?
The last Ollie sponsorship. So we have our sponsorship levels that we've had out for several months. I'd be happy to send that to you, Harry, so you have the updated flyer. But basically there are different levels of sponsorship,
Right.
and the brick campaign. So the
Okay.
Ollie sponsorship was 5,000 and there were 4 of them and they're all gone now.
Okay. All right. And while you're at it, if you would also send me that notice that you were sending Joyce with regard to what's happening at Slow Brew Live.
I would love to. You got it. It'll be in your box today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, a quick question. Is there any other sponsorships still available for bricks?
Yeah, so great question, Jim. Thank you. Bricks are available. And of course, there are 2 different types of bricks. One is 250, the other is 500. I think I'll send those forms to you as well, Jim, just so you have the latest updated ones. The higher level sponsorships are still available. I know you're familiar with them. The one is
Right.
for 100,000 and the other is for 50,000. We'd sure love that $50,000 sponsorship to get taken. And those are nice plaque placements. They're not bricks. They're really gorgeous plaque placements like over at the Vets Hall.
Right. I was wondering because the Lions have put another $10,000 in. I was wondering if there was a sponsorship that it was above 20 that somebody could subscribe to.
There's the 50. And thank you for bringing that up, Jim. Lions has been wonderfully generous. There are $20,000 to the good on their donations to the project. So, but let's make sure Harry, Joyce, and Jim, you guys all get those forms. I'm happy to shoot them out to you. And the brick placements, just so everybody out in the public knows, we've sold just short of, I'm gonna say $65,000 worth of bricks and plaque placements. So that program is working, and we're very excited, of course, to continue taking donations in that area as well. Any other questions?
Nice work, Julie. Way to stay on it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I always enjoy your pleasant words to kick off your presentation. So thank you for the blessings. That takes us into public comment. Mr. Clark or Mr. Calderwood, do you guys either want to have anything to say? I'm always happy to listen to either one of you. No enlightening things for you to share with us? All right. I guess we'll wait till something else comes up. Okay, that takes us into Facilities and Resources Management. Carlos is not here. Mr. Weigel, are you listening? And do you have something you'd like to share with us? Seeing none. Seeing it's just his name. Okay. All right, got it. That will do away with that. Now take us to the consent agenda. Did anybody read the minutes from last month? Which were my minutes, by the way. I just like everyone.
Very
to know
well
that.
done, by the way.
Thank you very much. Please don't make me do that again. All right, so can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move.
There's a motion and a motion from Joyce, a second from Kermit. All in favor, say aye. Aye, minutes carry. All right, and that takes us into regular business. Discussions and consideration of the ordinance referring to the dog on the dog ranch. This is on there because I told Jess, the lady that referred the letter, that we would discuss it. We're here. I've talked to her about it, and you know, it's pretty much water under the bridge at this point. So that being said, I will venture this statement on that, and I feel like the process went around us, which kind of goes to the point a lot of us make. We really don't have any power anyway, because if you want something done, you don't really need to do us. You can just go around us, which is what happened. But my problem with that is I like to be the community voice that lets people say, and I feel like the people that walk their dogs without their leashes did not get the opportunity to voice their opinions through our venue, which I like to sell as here for Cambrians. And so that being said, I'm going to go from there. All right, now we can talk about it. Jim, you're first. Go.
Yeah, I don't think it's water under the bridge because in the actual ordinance did make a penalty, and it really didn't. It's not going to stop anybody or change anything. And I don't think that Carlos should be in the enforcement business. And once an ordinance is in place, you can always change it. You can always modify it. And I think Director Farmer had a very excellent idea on trying to carve out at least a trail like Tipton to Trenton as being, let's say, non-signed. We don't put signs on it. That's an opportunity, and don't say anything about it one way or another. I also ran across a woman who had her dogs. Well, I had my dog off leash. I should go to jail, but normally, like Harry, if I see somebody 50 feet away or whatever, I will put my dog on the leash and just pass by. And I think most people are courteous doing so. But this woman had an idea. She said, well, how about after 9 o'clock, you must put your dog on leash? That would do two things. One, if someone, especially a Cambrian, was going to walk on the ranch with their dog off leash, they would feel like they weren't violating the law. And visitors normally don't know that the ranch is there until about 9 o'clock anyway. So I think we can suggest modifications, if not to the ordinance itself, but to the enforcement. I think it would be valuable. As far as trying to have somebody here going around the pros commission, when I was on the board, we talked about having dogs on leash, and there was 100 people that came into the vets hall to voice their opinion on it. I noticed just yesterday that this subject is going to be on the agenda today. I sent an email this morning to whoever Weezer is, the person that did a public records request, to see how many people had actually gotten bit or bothered by dogs off leash. And I sent him an email saying, hey, this is on the agenda, maybe show up in the audience, and I didn't see him. So, and I agree with you that we need to be a voice. And right now, the only people that knew that this was on the agenda is us. And I think that if we had a little bit of an outreach, I'm not saying a PSA, but something that would do an outreach to say, hey, we're having this subject on this day, and get ideas and feedback from people so that we can, as if we agree or if we have some ideas that we want to present to the board, we can do so. I think that's our job. I'm now going to be quiet.
Kermit, you were next, and then I'm gonna go to Adolf, and then Harry. Kermit?
Okay, yeah, that's, I sort of side with Jim on the lack of spread that we're doing anything. And a lot of that would be if we encompassed the landowners of different parks and so forth, as well as, the community members at large. But basically, we're too small a group and we cover too small a footprint to be effective in some of this. I think the other one is the and that goes with what I've talked about today. We're not the only people who have dogs being walked on their land, and they should be part of the same thing. Just because we're a small community, there's no reason why they shouldn't be included in an ordinance on public land. But I don't know how much the CCSD has authority on trust lands. Second one is, when I was being a Forest Service person, we had what's called the Recreation Opportunity Spectrum, in which we had lots of, we had 5 different classes, and going from urban to wilderness, and each of them had it. The Fiscal Union Ranch vaguely has that by some of the way they assigned East and West Ranch apart, but then again, you end up in just about the same rules governing both classes. But we go all the way from leash law straight to the interior pen. We have a lot of area on the East Ranch that has different areas that could have open run areas for dogs. Whether it should be fenced, I don't think so, but at least there's an area where we could have a second class other than just enclosed fence, and to sort of a owner in control in these specific areas. And that's up toward the road we used to have, that's kind of the wetlands area, as well as that big open field in there that is off the trail. 100 feet off the trail could be adequate. Second, the ordinance says that leashes 6 foot in length. We've got the expand hand control thing that goes out 50 foot for a little dog or a big dog, but that's a leash that can be controlled. And I think that really wasn't considered because it's nailed down to 6 foot, which is pretty restrictive. And you just, if you just want a dog that's in control by the owner on a leash, that should have been considered as a possibility of in there. I do agree with the timing of that Jim mentioned, but that's, frankly, that's an excellent thing. This thing is too rigid for my thoughts on it. That's it.
Thank you, Kermit. Adolf?
Yeah, I remember when we first started walking on the ranch and the FFRP was being formed. And at that time, there was kind of a consensus that, yeah, we can have the dogs off leash as long as they have voice control. And over the years, what we found out was, number one is people who say they have voice control often do not. Secondly, we used to have a lot of wildlife on the ranch. That was kind of consistently, if you walked early in the morning or in the afternoon or whatever, you would see quite a bit of wildlife. You don't see as, at least I haven't seen in the last, I'll say several years now. because some dogs that are off leash are not animal controlled in a sense. Otherwise, if they see a deer, they'll prance after it or whatever. And then this process has gone on for, I'd say, 10 or 15 years in terms of whether dogs should be on or off leash. And also, I think Kitty had mentioned that they were doing a study because they had more incidents than they had in the past. Now, as far as how the ordinance is put together, I think it's basically following the county's way of looking at public gatherings and how dogs should be handled in those situations. And maybe that's part of why the language is kind of the way it is. Now, I would probably consent to say that if you allow people to walk off leash, maybe we should put a time limit on it. But how do we know they're going to leave at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whatever? It's always on their good faith. So I think we really just have to kind of monitor it a little bit. If we find that we're not getting incidents for a while, having dogs on leash other than, let's say, dogs on leash on the boardwalk and probably on the little road that goes to the. I think that it's a monitoring situation for a while to see what happens. In the meantime, we'll have to enforce the ordinance that the CCSD passed. And by the way, is that effective now or not? That's my comment.
Thank you, Harry, and then Terry.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I appreciate the fact that, Kermit stated that he felt that this ordinance, which is now all dogs must be on leash at all times, is a bit too rigid. I appreciated the fact that Jim supported my suggestion. I was the one board member, by the way, the vote was 4-1. I was the one board member that voted against the ordinance. And having some flexibility, I think, is really important because over the years, I've seen much more, as I said, many more situations where dogs were being walked off leash and there was absolutely no problem. And to go from that type of situation, and I understand that we're getting these reports that there's more dog attacks taking place. I haven't witnessed them, and there's no written report necessarily of any of these taking place. That's not to say they're not happening. And we did hear a report about a fellow on a bicycle that was attacked by a dog. And I'm really sorry to hear that, or any type of violence taking place in one fashion or another. But there does need, over the years, like I say, walking dogs off leash has not been a problem. And there needs to be some flexibility here, whether it's a particular area up in the wooded spot where the dogs can walk off leash, or as Jim suggested, a time element, like before 9 o'clock in the morning. Because many people have spoken to me and said that they're not that keen on this ordinance with regard to the strictness of it. And I just feel like there needs, like I say, there needs to be some open-mindedness with regard to those of us that do walk our dogs off leash and do not create a problem, because I feel, this is my personal opinion, dogs that are able to walk off leash, especially in the wooded areas, they're much healthier, they're much happier. That's not to say that dogs that are on leash aren't happy, but it's just the fact that the dogs have more of an opportunity to run around. Now, with regard to what Adolph said, it does surprise me that I don't remember the last time I saw a coyote on the ranch, whereas you used to see them quite frequently. Why they're not there anymore, I don't know. I see an occasional deer, but not that often. It could just be because there's more people out there, more vehicles out there doing work of one type or another, whether it's CAL FIRE cutting down trees or other things that are taking place. There's a lot more machinery activity that might have something to do with why there's not as many animals out there. I don't know. I'm just speculating. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Terry, you're muted.
No, her microphone's just not on.
No,
she's, her mute's not held up, it's just your microphone on the machine.
Do you have her banner?
Yeah, turn your volume up, maybe?
What do you do signing? No, she does.
Terry, computers hate you, Terry. They've cursed you. They're not.
Okay, now I see her thing is try, Terry, go down to the lower left corner and that little red microphone slash. If you should, in your picture, you should have a little microphone. You click on that, your name, just click on your name. Okay, now it's gone. Doesn't make any difference. Nope.
Sign out and back in.
Steve, do you have, I thought there was a way to
Chat.
chat. Yeah, I don't see the chat button.
I don't see chat either. She could chat if we had it.
I don't see it.
I don't either.
All right, Terry, if you figure it out, just start screaming and we'll listen to you. Yeah. All right, any other comments on that? All right, I'm not sure necessarily where we go and what action, Harry, I can't hear you. What action we can take on an ordinance that's already passed. I think the question that comes to my mind is how does the beach in Carmel do it? Right, everybody goes to Dog Beach in Carmel, and who carries the liability on that, and how does that work? Not to mention Dog Beach in Cayucas, because they got that going too.
One
By
of
the way,
the,
Dog Beach in Cayucas is probably going to be closed because when it gets when it's no longer on private land, the thought is that they're going to not allow dogs there either.
Yeah.
That would be a real loss.
That would be a horrendous loss, but that's the rumor. I'm not going to say
That
rumors
seems
anymore.
where it's
Done.
going.
yeah, and one other point is that the state parks in our area do not allow dogs on the beach. There's a couple of stretches, I think Shamble Park, you can take a dog on the beach. Supposedly you have to leash it, but people often let them run free. But that's, and I can understand because of the fact that we don't have that freedom to go in these public areas, that the people who want to take their dogs off leash are having a hard time trying to find a place to do it here in Cambria. And I don't know how you solve that. Now, I'm a little bit biased in a sense because I've walked my dogs and our dogs have been attacked by dogs without leash. And it's not very pleasant when it happens. And it doesn't happen very often, obviously, but when it does, the person that's affected by it gets quite upset. And the only thing we can do, I think, is again, decide if we can, and if the public is willing to, we could. The time limit seems to me to be a reasonable situation. Because if I wanted to walk my dog in the morning, I'd say, oh, I don't want to walk right now because there's dogs off leash. But if I go at 10 o'clock, now the dogs are on leash or whatever it is, whatever the case is, as long as people are faithful to that. And I don't know where it's going to end up, but I guess we'll monitor for a while and see what happens.
You know, Steve, I don't know if I'm out of line in bringing this up, but when I moved here back in '86, I had a canine companion, Toby. His full name was Toby-Wan Kenobi, the Cosmic Canine. And he was probably the best dog that I've ever had in my life. And I've had some really special companions, canine companions. And in the 11 and a half years that we were together, he was attacked 13 times by other dogs, some on leash, some off leash. And not once did any owner of those dogs that did the attacking ever inquire as to how my dog was doing or apologize for the event. And there were times where the dog would attack my dog and then the owner would beat their dog, punch it, hit it with a big clip, you know, like on a leash. And I thought, like, these people are nuts. Those kind of people are out there. So if anybody should be supporting a law to have your dog on leash, that would be really a good thing. The unfortunate thing is that you just basically, whether dogs are on or off leash, you just basically have people that are not responsible with the behavior of their dogs or their own behavior. And you can't get around that. Just like you can't get around people in life that don't do good things in their life. But that doesn't mean the rest of us can endeavor to do our best, including walking our dogs in as responsible a fashion as possible and expressing as much love as you possibly can for our four-legged friends. Like I say, that might be slightly off topic, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Harry. Does anybody else have a closing statement? All right, I don't see the need for us to bring this back as an agenda item, right? We don't have any action we can even take. So we've discussed it, we've thrown it out there. Does anybody in the public have something they want to add to it? Good, seeing none, we will move on to the next topic, which is the discussion about hiring the consultant to help us with the potential for the community park. Comments from anybody? I see we've lost Mr. Weigel now. I was kind of hoping he would comment on this. Harry, do you have a comment on this for us? We've got $19,000 and we're supposed to spend it on a consultant to help us move forward.
All right, Steve, and you wanted me to comment on?
Well, would you agree that that's the direction we've been tasked from the board?
That is correct, yes. And I'm kind of spacing out these days. I seem to recall at I think it was your last meeting where you, and I don't know if the 19,000 goes to this. I think you were considering hiring a consultant to draw up some type of plan for the three major topics, major projects, I should say, that want to be developed on the East Ranch. If I can comment on that, I seem to recall, and I believe I mentioned this once before, attending a pros meeting back in September of 2010. And at that time, a person had been hired. He was a landscape architect, and he came up, they paid him $35,000. And he drew up these plans for how the East Ranch would be developed with various projects, whether it was soccer fields, softball fields, you name it. But it was pretty expensive. Like I say, they paid this fellow $35,000. And I remember that the drawings that he presented, in fact, I had copies. I kind of let them go after a while. They must exist somewhere. And
You have copies, Harry, in the minutes that we got. At the bottom of the minutes is the map and his plan. You have copies if you got the minutes and, the agenda.
okay, so why aren't we using them as a reference point as opposed to hiring somebody once again to do it?
Yeah, I've got comments. Kermit, what do you got?
I thought we were going to try to discuss revision of the 94 pros plan, the Parks and Recreation plan, was to revise our master plan.
Yeah, I thought we had kind of put that on the back shelf and thought that might be overreach. This, I think, what I think they need, if I'm not mistaken, is they need more documentation and more specifics on hand so that they can apply for grants. Meaning this, and we're not going to build the soccer field, but let's even say the play structure. Hold on, let's say the play structure. We want to put a play structure in there. Well, which play structure? We can't really apply for a grant for the play structure because we don't have all the specifics together. And if we had the specifics, not just the general plan that the guy drew for 35,000, but we need the specifics of the plan for the playground. That's why we need this other consultant. Like with the bathroom, right? We just couldn't pick the bathroom and say, let's build that one. We had to pay Monty to evaluate the bathroom. And I think that's where we're going with this next guy, which I'm not in agreement for, because I think we know where we want to go and what we want to do. Do we really need a consultant to pick the playground, to pick the benches, to pick the equipment that we're going to place around the running track, right? We can pick the equipment and the running track. I'm not sure what we're paying for. Jim, go.
Well, I would say that's probably money well spent, because frankly, otherwise Carlos has to do all the work. You might as well have somebody who, especially one is, you need to find out what you're going to get up front rather than surprise me. And so, yeah, I don't think paying a consultant to pick stuff and getting it done up front is wasted money. And I think it will improve the quality of what you're going to get. And that's it.
And Kermit, I'm listening to you because you speak with experience. So I'm not afraid to spend that money on your recommendation from your life experience. Jim?
Yeah, quick. I don't know why, Steve, you don't want to move forward with a soccer field. That's probably one of the best uses there. People don't have to play soccer, but at least it's graded, and it's already graded. It's ready to go. All we need to do is cut it and make it happen. I think in the plan, it says you can't have equipment out there, so you'd have to put equipment out and bring it back in every day or whatever. And even a baseball field, apparently you can't have the backstop, and it's got to be portable or something like that. If you read the plan in its detail. And I think that I agree with Kermit, really. If we have $19,000, why don't we suggest this is what we're going to spend it for and spend it? I think that, and I'm sorry, but Joyce, I just looked at my agenda and I don't see any plan that's at the back of that.
If you go down, my agenda had it. If I went all the way down to the bottom, the plan and the picture of it was there and whatever. I don't think I got it particularly special, but maybe I did.
No, I got it too.
Thank you, Steve.
When was that email? Did it come from Leah?
Yeah, it came from Leah.
Right.
I'm looking at yesterday's. Okay, maybe I'll find it. Okay.
Okay.
It's in the original plans. It's got the big soccer fields with 3 or 4 fields and the whatnot. And I want to get back to this thing. I'm not against the soccer field by any means, but I just think that the other things are easier components tackled. And once we get those things in place, the green expanse, shall we call it, whether it be with equipment or not, but I love the idea of a green expanse there, but that just seems such a heavy road to hoe. Anybody else? Well, we don't have water. We got people saying things and blah, 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 but we can get a play structure. We can get the picnic tables. We can get that equipment track thing going. And so I'd rather click those things off than jump into the field, which is really going to be quite a bailiwick to tackle. Kermit or Adolf, you go.
Yeah, just one question. When we first started a lot of this stuff, we had phase 1 and phase 2 contract, and our big accomplishment, I think, is when we had the grading done, which basically set what the park was going to be and the items that might be on it, so forth and so on. And but all along the way, in all the years that I've been on the pros, we've always run up into the finance problem. Who's going to spend the money? Who's going to give us the money? It's been there all along. And so a lot of the stuff that we had intended to do, we basically had to back burner because there were no funds to continue. And now we've got to the point where we're going to put a restroom on the ranch, which supposedly is a kickoff point for the county to say, okay, you have an official park, so to speak. And so we know what we wanted to do. We know what we'd like to do. But our only problem right now is how are we going to put it into place with enough funding to actually accomplish? And it's difficult, other than to say that we're going to do what we said we we're going to do in phase 1 and phase 2. And maybe what we need to do is write a short report referencing the first report as to where we are now and where we'd like to go in time. That's my comment.
Joyce?
Well, we really kind of did that with the recommendations that the committee and Carlos put out, and it's already been sent to CCSD. What I think they want is us to be shovel ready to put it so they can have a grant. You know, we can apply for a grant and get it because we're shovel ready. And maybe a consultant would help us get shovel ready, my opinion.
Kermit?
I would like a little more, the soccer field sounds good, but I know there's places we couldn't put even tents out in a open field because there's too many golfers and there's too much loose land, and you can't run horses on that thing. I don't know if you can play soccer on it. I'd like to hear somebody who is a little more advanced in liability on golfers before we go too far on that. I think, Jim, we've discussed this, and I don't know what you feel about it, but would you run on that field? I mean, with you're gonna lose some feet. I'd say I'm not sure that we're shovel ready with anything on that field.
Jim?
I don't think we need a consultant to tell us that we're going to do a soccer field. I think what we can do is say, get a bid from 2 people on tell them what we want to do, get a bid from it, and now we're shovel ready. Now, we don't have the money, but at least we have a defined project.
Right.
And I don't think you need a consultant. Maybe we can do that on a piece of paper and say, this is what we want to do because we're pros. This is what we're suggesting to the board. We already suggested 3 projects. So let's look at them, get a bid, and now we're shovel ready. And now they say, well, we can't pay it. Well, that's okay. Now maybe some organization will help pay it, just like they're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into a skate park. We need to, and they know exactly what the skate park's going to cost, or they have a good idea what it's going to cost. They have a design. It doesn't take a consultant to design a soccer field or picnic benches or anything else. Let's just get some people to give us a valid bid, and then we'll look for the money. I think that's what the board is wanting. They want something specific.
Yeah, they do. Exactly, Jim.
Anybody else want to have a comment, or do they want to make a motion?
Just one
Adolph, go.
one final comment is that we kind of know what direction we want to go, but we don't have, as Jim keeps saying, is the as a shovel ready situation. But if we were to use a consultant, could we have them basically give us kind of a timeline in a way of the kinds of things that we'd like to do and what our top guy is, our next guy is, our next guy is, our next guy is, so to speak, and get an estimated cost of those based on today's requirements. And that document basically would say between now and in 2025 or 26 or whatever it is, this is what we'd like to do, and this is the cost estimate we have to do these projects that we have outlined in our requests.
I agree with I agree with Adolph, but I don't think it's $19,000. I think what we should do is have an ad hoc committee of 2 of us and define what step number 1, step number 2, and step number 3 is, and then put an RFP out for somebody to do those estimates, and then choose one of those 2 consultants to make it official. I think that, I think that's, if if the board wants us to spend some money, let's spend some money on that and, but not all at
We
19,000
can't
bucks.
put out an RFP, can we?
Can we?
We can suggest.
Huh?
Sure, well, yeah, we could suggest that we
Send
put
it.
an RFP out. I think the general manager should be involved in that. He should be advised that that's the direction we're going and he can advise the board. That's my thought.
Yeah, because who does that job? Help us decide. Who does that? Monty? Did we give him money and he does the same stuff? Anybody have that? Like if we said, oh, let's spend $19,000 on a consultant, who is that person?
Right.
Right?
So Steve, I noticed that Michael Calderwood has his hand up.
Ah, good. Thank heavens. Weigh in. Michael, let me get you here. There you go.
Good morning, everybody. How are you all today?
Good.
I'm going to take a little bit of a alternative approach to this subject. Not being critical, but it's been about a year since this conversation's been going on, and you're still having the same exact conversations. One of the alternate solutions that was proposed, and I advocated for this, and I still do, was to hire a consultant, and this is probably the original idea, to come in and help this pros commission figure out how you're going to operate so that you don't go a year asking the same questions and going back and forth and not knowing clearly how you can proceed. So the original thought that I had was get a consultant who is strong on organization, who can help you review your charter, review your processes, review all the things that you do, and then give you some guidance, 2 or 3 tips, perhaps, maybe a structure or a framework that you can operate more effectively, because literally same conversation every time this comes up and nothing has progressed. There has been good work done on the 3 top projects, which are simple, easy to move forward with, and would break the logjam that seems to be in place of no action. But other than that, the conversation is just going deeper into the ground rather than moving forward. So you might consider looking at this consultant opportunity as an organizational improvement and ways to make the pros commission more effective for the community rather than, do we build a soccer field or whatever else? So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Where do we hire that guy? Right? Who does that?
I don't know if am I still muted?
Yeah, no, you're there. Tell me.
I think that you could ask the general manager. I think you could ask Kitty. I think Julie probably knows about 13 and 19 people with those skill sets who can go out and do that. I mean, you can look in the phone book, call the county. There's a zillion different ways to go about finding that resource. So just a few ideas there. Thanks.
No, thank you. Anybody want to comment on that?
Yeah, I the only comment I have is I think that's a good suggestion, and I think I didn't put it in the same words you did, but I do think that's probably our option, is to go that direction. And that way we'll be officially recognized as having some more process on the ranch.
Joyce, Kermit, Jim, anybody?
I'm just mulling it. I kind of, in a way, I'm leaning towards Jim in that we can take a project and get some bids on it and then suggest to CCSD, here are 2 different bids and move forward. I mean, I'm not so sure that looking at our charter and going through all that is going to help us that much. I just think we need to take, I'm with Jim, I think we need to take some steps and, do it. Like if we went with playground equipment, we get 2 different, first of all, you do a little research and find out what you could get, and then call the company and get a estimate and then present that to the board. And that's shovel ready if you have someone that you're actually going to get the design from.
Jim?
Well, I don't want to dismiss Michael's excellent suggestions. Because we're this dysfunctional, that's really us. And maybe if a consultant told us how dysfunctional we are. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to move forward so that next month, this is not on the agenda or an action item that we take next month with a motion and a second and move forward is what I'm thinking about. I agree with Michael 100%. We haven't done very much, except last time we have 3 projects. Well, now let's do something with those 3
The
projects.
3 projects, right.
And so rather than wait until January, February or March, when we get a report back that says we're dysfunctional and this is how we can be more functional, let's try and do something now. And so that, anyway, I think Michael's right on. We need to have a better process. Maybe we put that on our agenda, but let's, at least at the end of every agenda, then the future agenda item should be, did we actually do anything last month?
Yeah. Kermit?
Okay, we've submitted 3 projects last time. We've got our future already nailed down as to where we're going on the things that were consulted. That went in last month. I would like to see a consultant come in and tell us how dysfunctional we are, and then redesign, sort of like include other bodies that manage the resources in the Cambria area, and the county being one, but reorganize the whole committee is to be more effective, because we actually have no power, we have no course, we have no money. So I enjoy chatting with you every month. I really do like you people, but I would say that if we're going to be a effective committee, I don't think we're designed that way. We don't include the county. We don't include all the basic land sitting out there with trees on it that could be used by dog owners that want to walk dogs, or if they don't want people on them, that's another thing. And I don't even know the size of the masses that are out there. Strawberry Canyon, Fern Canyon, those things aren't included in the dog leash law. And we aren't really managing much except one pile of land. And Kitty's got a board. I don't know why she isn't a director. And the other manager of that outfit is pretty much Carlos. We're supposed to advise Carlos, but I don't know why, because he's going to pretty much do what he wants to do and get it done fairly effectively. And he manages the same piece of land as what Carlos does. So it goes back to that question, what is it we do? I don't know either, still don't after this period of time. And I do think that we need to redesign who sits on the thing and have outside, any land management, any organization in Cambria that manages land for recreation purposes beyond this board, as well as the county. And so I do suggest we use the consultant, redesign the pros commission. And that's the soccer field it ain't going nowhere. You're gonna mow it, and that's all you can do. And you can chase field golfers around for a while, but they're gonna be there longer than you are. And I see it as a long ways away from any place that has any support, nor would I spend a nickel on it until you get the golfer question answered. But that's me. But
Gotcha.
I would say we ought to look at bigger issues like trails and so forth that do the community good, rather than chase necessarily what's out there on there. We don't have those projects online, and even if we had a shovel ready, we have no priority as to, because we didn't submit them in that last 3-unit go around.
Let's get a bid on gopher control. I see Michael's got his
I
hand up.
might be interested, yes.
So Kermit's for a big umbrella and gopher control. Okay. Michael, do you have something you want to add? Go ahead.
Hi, I don't know if I'm still, okay, I guess I'm still there. Just a quick observation. Why can't you do both things?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we want to move ahead with the idea of a couple of us on a subcommittee, whatever that is, ad hoc committee, and picking a couple of the actual items and moving forward with those items, like you said, so we can have a shovel-ready project, picnic tables, equipment circuit. Let's stop calling it an equipment circuit so that we have a name for it. We'll get a bid on that, and that will try to get us ready for a project ready for a grant if we could. And by the same token, we won't be spending the money that we kind of see that we do want to use a guy to help us get direction and power. It's going to help us get more power, which could be money, but it give us some type of effectiveness. Is that statement true?
I would agree with that, and it could be a gal.
Yeah, sorry.
Just a joke.
Sorry, Julie.
The second thing is, you can get really creative, and we talk of gophers all the time. Well, why don't you start a gopher golf league or a gopher hole cornhole or something, something outside the box, just to to loosen the mind up and find different ways to effectively use the assets that you've got. So just a thought. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael.
Julie, did you have a comment you want to add to this whole discussion?
No, if we're moving in the direction, there was mention of a committee, and I know on the last go around, there was a committee formed. I would really like the opportunity to chime in on that committee, Steve. So if a committee is going to be formed, whether it's to go after a consultant or to go after bids, I would very much like to be part of that.
And Terry too, I saw that. Let me go over this. We were told last time that the ad hoc committees cannot have the ex officio members on the ad hoc committee. Is that correct?
No, that was corrected.
No, I think that you can't have more than 2 board members. By the way, I'm just an alternate. So, but I think that to have 2 board members or commissioners, I guess we are, and Julie could add in there. I think you'd have a third person. That's as far as the Brown Act is concerned, wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, but Kermit and Joyce, did you guys feel that you were told that you weren't allowed to have any more members on that last time?
Officially, we were told that, but then I'm not sure that it might be changeable. I'm not positive. That's what we were told. But
My understanding on the way American government works is that there's 2 members officio on that board, but it's open to the public. You meet in public, so other people can participate in the process,
not
but
vote.
not vote.
Yeah.
Right. And so in that regard, I want it to be a bigger group. It can be an ad hoc committee with other people chiming in, correct?
Could be.
Right, it's not just 2 ad hoc committee members meeting over in a closet, making a decision unaffected by other people.
Steve, I don't think that that's the approach. If you have an ad hoc committee with two commissioners or less, you don't have to publicly. You can have people come, but you don't have to put an agenda out. You don't have to notice it.
Exactly. I
Get
want
something
all
done.
that. I want it to be loosey-goosey. I want you to say, we're meeting down here. We put it on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? It's not from Leah. It's just, hey, these 2 people are meeting to discuss this thing. If you got something to say, come on down.
Right.
Right.
But you can get something done. You don't have to.
You make it so many comments that you'll never get anything done too. I mean, you have to think about that end of it.
But let's have that happen one time.
Yeah, you
Let's
need
call a meeting and
structure.
have so many people show up. That's not going to happen.
Well, who knows? But you do need some structure, I think, to the committee.
Yeah. All right. So who wants to be on the ad hoc committee to which project? What was the number 1 project? The quick ones, the picnic tables and the trash cans?
No,
It seems to me that we should attack that, the equipment circuit.
I agree. I think that would be well worth our time.
Right? Is the equipment circuit 50 grand? Right? If Carlos makes the trail, can we get something for 50 grand?
Yeah.
But we have to find out.
Yeah, all right. So that's what our little ad hoc committee is gonna do. Are you with that? Somebody want to make a motion to that, put that together, and we'll start that process.
Steve, Michael has his hand up. I don't know. if
Michael, are you still raring to go?
He's muted, but he can.
I'm sorry, that was just my oversight.
Oh,
You guys are
that's all
doing
right. It's
great.
probably me too. I can try to make you go away.
People have tried, Steve.
We kind of like you here. All right, there we go. Adolf,
Do we still have the ad hoc committee together, meaning Joyce and Kermit?
I want to be on the other
They
committee.
were the center of that before.
Kermit and Joyce, what do you say?
That's their experience.
I'd
Sure.
rather be on the reorganization board.
Well, hold on. Let's tackle this first little project first, and then we'll go to the reorganization thing here. I don't.
Steve, I would nominate Terry to join Joyce, but Terry's muted, but she could wave her hand if she'd like to participate.
You
Is
want to
that
be on that,
that's
Terry, on
fair?
the ad hoc? We're taking that as a yes. Joyce, are you good with that?
Yeah, I guess. Guess so.
You know, it's not going to be much if it's just a circuit thing.
Okay.
All three of us could work on it together.
Okay.
Oh, no, the three of you can't. That's a Brown Act.
Oh, okay. Then those two.
Kermit, do you have access to information like that, though? It might be good to have Kermit on the
Well,
committee.
and that's, why don't I just do it unofficially? I'll look up the different things. The biggest issue is the quality, how good a quality you want and how
Right.
site prep, because they do have various qualities that.
Yeah.
some expensive.
Yeah, Steve, I think that's a great idea. If Kermit could just provide information to Joyce and to Terry, that he doesn't have to meet in face to face or anything. He just provides some
Email.
information so that they have more choices to look at. I think wouldn't be a Brown Act thing.
Okay.
And I think the deadline should be that the committee report next month at
Next
the
month.
latest. In fact, could make it part of the agenda, what they're in writing, exactly what they're trying to do. So we have something that we can vote on and move forward.
Yeah, a single purpose item like that should be pretty quick.
Yeah.
Reasonably quick.
Julie?
how are we gonna make it available to the public? Just so that information is getting out there.
In regards to this particular ad hoc committee, in regards to this equipment circuit,
When the committee's meeting, Steve, how is the information gonna be delivered to the public so we know the time and place to be?
so,
to
because
contribute.
it's an ad hoc committee, it's really not that important for us to put it out there. And do you think we need to let everybody, does everybody want to weigh in on the ad hoc? They may not even meet. They may just kind of do it over an email situation. And I'm not so sure the public wants to weigh in on that. I think they would be more inclined to weigh in on the ad hoc thing that we get going on about the reorganization.
Well, I would like to weigh in on what Joyce and Terry are working on in regards to the open space. So that's what we just talked about. We talked about the fact that you've got 2 committee members and that you want to be able to at least give one round to the public to also be able to give them some feedback opportunity. And
Yeah.
again, if I can't have a vote, I want to at least be able to understand their direction and what's being done and what I can bring to the table in contribution to those projects, even if those projects are just this track rotation, picnic benches, and trash receptacles. The open space is very concerning to me. And as a community member, I want to be able to know and, know the process and understand that I've got an opportunity for feedback.
That seems fair enough. Does that seem fair to
Steve?
everybody?
Yeah, Steve, if I could ask you to check with legal to make sure that that Julie could participate along with Joyce and Terry, and Julie would be a member of the public that has great interest at the moment as part of that ad hoc, so that we have citizens recommended. Because until we come up with a specific recommendation, I think that the public has said pretty clearly that they'd like to have some use of that East Ranch. They'd like to have a walking trail or something. They've said that. Now, once they come up with their recommendation and the cost and design of that, and even if we have to have a consultant refine the design, at least we have something to vote on next month. So I suggest that Julie be allowed to be on that ad hoc if legal thinks that it's a regular thing. And if it's not an ad hoc, it's going to fail, because then we're going to announce to the world that we're considering the dog ordinance, and we have a grand total of 2 people attending this meeting. 2. So I don't want to go. My suggestion is we don't have further delay.
Kermit?
I would make one suggestion. I think it ought to be open to the public. In fact, that's kind of our biggest failing, is we don't have enough outreach on sort of these skunk work things. What I would do is I would put a notice in the Cambria in the government section about what you're doing in a meeting, and just be there at Vets Hall or whatever, or a coffee shop, and just see who shows up. So 2 is sufficient, and everyone that wants to go to that thing could. You only got 2 people in the committee theoretically, and whoever wants to show up at the first meeting, the second meeting, whatever, is their choice. But the Cambria is a cheap way to advertise and then sort of talk about what we're doing. In fact, that's not a bad place for us to put what it is we're proposing on there.
Where did you say to put it, Kermit?
The Cambria, the
Oh, okay, the
little
newspaper.
newsletter
Okay,
comes
gotcha.
out, and it has a government section in it, and we could advertise in that.
Right, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm with all of that, but Joyce and Terry are gonna come to the meeting with some stuff from you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Julie, you comfortable with that?
Yeah, just let me know what legal says. I mean, I don't want to miss the time and the date. And I missed it the last round. I mean, I said I'd be more than happy to be part of it, and then it happened. And so I would certainly want to not, I'm voicing this about as loud as I can. I would like to be part of this process.
Not to rehash
didn't know
old
that.
things, but Kermit and Joyce, the last time, did you guys actually physically meet, or did you just do it?
We did it by Zoom.
You did it by
But
Zoom.
It was
Right.
Carlos that controlled the meeting and set it up, and frankly, I think we'd be better just doing it ourselves and just going straight to the public. And Julie, I'm sorry that you did. We'd love to have had you. We just, frankly, we forgot. We didn't know that you were interested in that.
Well, and the Zoom thing makes it weird too, you know what I mean? That's a
Yeah.
whole,
Throw paper.
okay, so we need a motion. Adolph, what do you got?
Just comment. How are Cambrians now conversing? I mean, the Cambrian newspaper is not being taken by everybody because they've changed so much of it. But how do they normally communicate amongst each other on a social forum? What would that be?
Cambria.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's that outdoor, neighborhood social
It's
thing.
next door.
what about, raise your hand if you see stuff on Facebook
Well, there's a
in this
couple.
group, in
There's
just
a
this
couple
group.
mediums, Steve. You've
What's
got
that?
Nextdoor, you've got Cambria Currents, you've got Cambria Open Forum, you've got Facebook, and you've got CambriaCA.org. That's it. I mean, the Cambrian, what's left with McClatchy is very little. There's very little coverage in Cambria. We know this. But CambriaCA.org, to Kermit's point, has a government section. It would be wonderful to be getting more in that on behalf of pros. And what different events, I'm sorry, different projects that they're working on. But that is how Cambria stays informed. Next door, Cambria Currents, Cambria Open Forum, Facebook, some Instagram.
And I don't do any of those except next door. So whoever wants to do that will have to do it. I'm not,
Yeah.
not a member.
So if we spread this among the social media, would we cover all of those and basically say what we're talking about doing and asking people that like to talk about it, they can meet here or whatever?
I'm on all of the platforms. So I am more than happy to put the information out to the public if that's the direction you wish to.
You know, I'm sorry, but I am not in the frame of reference of having a giant meeting in the open out wherever. Because of my age and the virus is still very rampant out there, I don't really particularly care to meet with, members of the community on in open face-to-face. So maybe somebody else should be on the committee.
Yeah, Joyce, I'm totally comfortable with your position. Do not feel funny for having that feeling.
On the other hand, I think Joyce is the best. She's experienced and she has a viewpoint. And I think that we have to do something. So if Terry and Joyce are willing to get together and with input from Julie, set a date, do something. And if you don't do something, call Steve and say, hey, we're having trouble doing something. But the public needs to see what we've decided and have input and change what was proposed.
But I'm saying I don't want to do a meeting with the public. I can do it Zooming.
Yeah.
You can Zoom.
Zoom is
But
fine.
Julie would just be the Zoomer
Right.
representative from the public, so at least we have 3 people working on the project.
Okay,
And
if Julie's willing to do the Zoom thing, I'm not willing to do
Absolutely.
that. I'm willing to be on it, but I'm not willing to arrange it.
Yeah, no, yeah, but. No.
Well, if I could just chime in, and I'm just going to piggyback on what Julie was saying with regard to the various social media sites where maybe a discussion can be initiated, because as we all know, sometimes you have some very quality commentary that takes place on Nextdoor, and then sometimes you have some people that are just crackpots and want to kind of sidetrack everything to their own way of looking at things. But that might be a good way to start, just make an announcement. This is a project that the Pros Commission is taking on. We have an ad hoc committee, and we'd like feedback from the community as to how you feel with regard to making the best use of the East Ranch.
No, we don't want to put a big, we want to keep
Yeah.
it narrow to the 3 projects that
Yeah.
we're,
In
Okay.
regard to our exercise circuit,
All right.
yeah. All right, let's make a motion for that.
Steve, I want to add in one thing.
Go ahead.
I just think it's really important. The open space belongs to our community, and the ability to ask them what they want, I'm concerned. I'm concerned as why we are not asking them what they want. Have we even asked them if they want this track? Picnic benches are one thing, no problem. Trash reciprocals, great. But I don't understand why we are not asking the community what it is that they want done with their space. So,
Julie, I disagree. They've been asked and they've given indication of what they want. They want something. And what I've heard from the public is that, yes, we would like to have picnic tables. Joyce, that's what they've been asking for. And yes, they would like to have an exercise track. How that all looks and everything else, let's come up with a number for it. And please be the representative on that. Let's come up with something that's there and then say, this is what we're thinking of doing. Do you want something different? At least we're going to do something by next month. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, please no, I'm in favor of the picnic tables. I'm in favor of the trash receptacles. Those are benign. I'm talking about things like soccer fields, Jim, things like, tracks, things that are going to cost money, of which no one says they have. So
I move that we appoint Joyce, Terry, and Julie Amade as an ex officio member to a Zoom-oriented discussion to bring back to this board next month at least one of the three major projects that we should focus on and come up with a plan to make that happen.
I have a motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
There you go.
Okay, so we don't have a second. That dies. Anybody else got something?
Let's,
Um,
I'm okay with Joyce saying she doesn't want to do that to the public thing, but I like Julie's idea. We meet with the public at least once to see what can happen. Oh, Joyce, if you want me, I'll take your place on that committee.
yeah, I do, please.
And we'll just, the three of us will just make I'd like to see a public meeting too. I'd like to see if anybody shows up. I'd like
Okay.
to see and if they do what they say.
I happily give you the job, Kermit.
Kermit,
You know-
just a question for Kermit. The stuff that you had come up with, the trash cans and the circuit, whatever, it seems kind of simple. I think we can probably just go ahead and do that. But maybe the public meeting, if there's going to be one, is to re-ask the question to the public what they want. Now, I know we did that several years ago when we got comments and they got narrowed here and narrowed there, but maybe it's not fresh in their mind. And maybe they have, some ideas of what they really like to have now. Make badminton, whatever.
I agree. I think we're so bound into that plan because it's on a piece of paper that we're bound to push it into place, and we will if we don't reach out. I'm not sure how loosey-goose we ought to be with it, but
No, I
why don't
agree.
we find out? And
Now, there
after
were-
we find out something, then we can do it. But right now, it seems like we ought to just plunge forward with what we have. And if people don't like it, if they indicate it, at least we will have sort of poked our finger into the air and see which way the wind is blowing. And I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything bad. This is not major. This is not major surgery yet. We don't have to do any major surgery until we damn well feel like it. So I'd say let's just go on with it and do it.
One other comment. When we first started this process with a community park, there was a survey given, and there were certain things that were eliminated because for different reasons. For example, the tennis court. The other, I think, was a swimming pool, things like that. And those were eliminated from the list at the community park. But there are other activities that people like to do. Maybe they can come up with something that's unique to us. Who knows?
Let's see what we got.
Yeah,
Yeah, go for golf.
That's a good one.
That's a suggested that.
A bounty for every golfer head you get. Yeah.
We could call it, they're using for badmintons.
so I'm curious as to Julie's position, but I think I'm gonna belabor that conversation in private with her. Before I can't stop that. But I just want to reiterate that we're supposed to have active recreation out there. And I think that's what I'm pressing. I'm trying to achieve that county obligation that we got 20 years ago, that it's got to be some kind of movement. Picnic tables, park benches, and maybe even the playground really doesn't suffice those requirements. It needs to be something active, and that's why I keep going to the circuit training thing, because that seems the most simple way to achieve some form of that goal.
And Steve, that wasn't coming from you, that was coming from the public.
Yeah.
So
What's that?
That's been the exercise track. The public has said that. The few people that do weigh in on it.
Yeah,
I would move, Steve, that you make a motion.
I don't like making motions as the
I
board
know.
president.
I move that Kermit and Terry Lord with the input from Julie Amadei, come back to this board with a priority project definition and estimate. Period.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Jim, repeat that, please.
That Kermit and Terry have an ad hoc committee to meet with input from Julie Amadei, if allowable, and come back with a project. And let's take the exercise track, because I know that that's something that's beyond benches, and make a recommendation to the board.
Okay,
And that's gonna be a public meeting? Are we?
Oh, no, it's an ad hoc meeting. If the public wants, if Julie can be the member of the public, because I don't want to slow it down. If they come back and say, yeah, now they should come back next month with a definition of a project, and once it's moved and seconded that that's the project we want to do, then we can tell the public that's what we want. Do you want something else? We're going to put $50,000 into this project. Do you want something else, or how do you want this project to look?
Okay, I'm comfortable.
It slows it down.
Just one question. I guess what we'd be doing then is having them go through that process. And then you'd report to pros, I guess, a note or whatever it is.
Right.
And we'd accept it, and then we would pass it on to the board of directors.
Yeah, or as a service to the board, put that out to the public so that now this is the feedback we've gotten on this project. We think it's still good, or the public doesn't want it, or whatever, because otherwise the board wants something to be able to act on. And my motion is so that we act on something.
Right.
And then if the ad hoc committee brings up something else that maybe we should go get another member on the pros commission, or we should spend some money on something else, let them go come up with something so we can act on something.
so you're recommending that the project that they should pursue at this moment is the exercise track, right, Jim?
Right.
Okay,
Right, because the benches and everything else is kind of a slam dunk.
Well, they can
we
already
come up
be-
with an estimate on that.
okay.
Harry, do you have any input, or what are your thoughts?
We can't hear her.
Well, I would say that the exercise track has been something that active older people have supported.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, and this has been for a long time.
Right. I think it's something that they would probably like, but
Yeah,
But
I also want to say, I'm sorry to interrupt, Joyce, but a lot of newer people have moved to this community that may not even know that there's like a pros commission or action taking place with regard to projects out on the East Ranch. So perhaps just, putting the word out there in one fashion or another, we might get, input that we haven't even heard before from folks that have moved here that might, like I said, have a broader ideas, or at least be more participatory in what's going to take place out there.
Okay, I had a motion on the board, and
A
Kermit-
motion and a second, correct, Joyce?
Kermit, right.
yes, I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
I
All right, motion carries. We're gonna try to push that on. And
have a motion again. I have another motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I move that we do an outreach to the public of our meeting next month, so that they can see what we're doing and what we're talking about. And that should happen via the general manager's office, I guess.
why can't we, excuse me, I'll raise my hand.
Go ahead, Kermit.
Why can't we include that on the Cambria ad just to see how
Yeah,
that would work?
Great.
yeah, and let's just, I don't know, I'm gonna start firing stuff out on Facebook. We got a pros meeting tomorrow at 10:30. I don't know.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
not
that's
against
good.
the law to do it like that in my sketchy way. I used to print up stuff on signs and staple them around town.
When you're young and ambitious?
Yeah. All right, but I want to also discuss before we leave, the consultant to give us direction. What are we telling the board? There's money sitting there that we should do something with. Kermit?
I make a motion, we request the money be spent to hire a consultant to redesign the board in the sense of either more members or more effective procedures, whatever comes out of the wash.
I think he meant redesign the commission, not the board.
Oh, we can't do that.
Okay, Harry, what would it take to redesign the board?
The commission.
We're a commission.
Well, I think that's what the consultant would help us with.
I would think so.
Yeah, and I'm not against I just wish that a guy would, or a girl would come to us and say, hey, if you give me the money, I'm gonna fix you. I feel like we're like going out there searching for a psychologist that may help us, and we're just gonna be like throwing darts. Who's gonna know that that person's gonna be worth the money we're spending
That's
on?
it. It would almost have to be Michael Calderwood because he's the only one that knows us well enough. So we should ask him if he does consulting work for $19,000. But I think the biggest thing is Harry's comment is we're not to be redesigned. We can't redesign ourselves. We have to tell the board what our results are and see if they want to do it. Otherwise, we clumsy on the way we are. Maybe they're just happy having us meet and dance every month. But the issue is, what's the most effective management of open land in Cambria? And that to me would be slightly different alignment. And I think that to me is, Harry, if this is not the appropriate place, do I show up at the board meeting and ask them to make that a motion as a citizen?
Well, you can show up in public comment and I would say, make any kind of suggestion that you would like to the board, if that's what you're saying.
Yes, but what's that gonna buy me to show up and do that? Anything? Because I think
It'll if nothing else, it'll put you out there where your suggestion is more visible, so that people in the public, as well as folks on the board and staff, will hear what you have to say.
Why isn't a statement from the commission here just as good as my private?
I think what you just asked was, what good would it do for you to come and speak in public comment?
That's true.
So
Do I
that
need,
was my response.
what's more effective then, me or the commission making a statement?
Both.
All right.
Kermit, you should realize, though, that the CCSD board does not have any authority over Fern Canyon or any of these other properties.
No, I don't that, but I think we should. I think we should have a cooperation with them so they know what we're doing and we know what they're doing, because I don't know. If I was a dog walker, I'd go over there.
Kermit, you would do a fantastic job by forming a committee, much like David Pearson did as far as the Fire Safe Focus Group, which does include suggestions to the county. And the county's really the person that you and the people that you want to include in this area.
Well,
I see
got
Michael
one
Calderwood's
supposedly
hand
with
up,
trails that
and
we're
I'm-
doing that in, so I don't need more government time on my plate. I've got other projects too, so.
I see Michael Calderwood's hands up. and
Michael, go ahead.
I've got a hard stop here pretty soon.
Yeah, me too. Michael?
Okay, that's a lot of pressure on me to be brief. My suggestion to Mr. Chair is that you take the motion that's being discussed, officially send it up to the board as you do in your report out from the chairman of the pros, requesting that the board consider asking the general manager to begin the process of looking for a consultant to address the issues you identify in your motion. General manager then can go look to staff or community input, all of that. But that's the clean, official, sensible way to move this forward. So ask the board to ask the general manager to kick this process
All
off.
right, Michael's made a motion. Can I get a second on Michael's
Second.
motion?
Second that, yes, Steve, I think that I support that.
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
can you go ahead and repeat that then, Jim?
I move.
I'll
that-
repeat it for you. It's
Yeah,
Jim. I'll make the motion because I'm so happy with that motion. The motion is that the board, president of pros is gonna request that the CCSD board direct the general manager to begin the process of helping find us a consultant to help us not reorganize. What word do I want to use there? To help us identify projects,
Become more effective
become more effective.
for management of open space in Cambria.
Dude, you keep including that,
Recreation
huh?
mode.
I'll second that. I'll second that.
And Jim seconds that.
It's way more than projects, Steve.
Yeah, for sure, way more than projects. To help us be more effective, is that what we're gonna use?
That's
Yeah.
my second.
Yeah. That's what I put down.
Okay. All right, perfect. And I have and who, Jim made I made the motion, Jim seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and push that along to the board. Any other discussions we want to have here? Good, seeing none. Thank you for everybody hanging out with this long drawn out discussion. I think it's going to be helpful down the road. We are making progress, if slowly.
Did we vote on, just 1 second, did we vote on the ad hoc committee we did take a vote for that?
Yeah.
All right, and it was unanimous?
Yes.
Okay, I kind of lost track there.
I can't imagine why in a meeting run by me, how someone would lose track.
Overcome with emotion.
Yeah. Okay, are we good?
Good.
Jim?
Yeah, Joyce, if you can get the minutes out soon so that we can make sure that we're moving forward on the project, that'd be great.
Well, I can't send, I don't know if I have permission to send the minutes to the commission. I have to send them to the general manager and
Okay, cool. But-
Leah, and she is in charge of getting them out. So I have nothing to do with what happens after I do them.
All right, okay.
Sorry.
Beautiful. Thank you, people. I appreciate everything. Michael, you're a blessing. Thank you.